and welcome to Almost 30 freaking podcast.
Hello, everybody.
500 or so times I've said that. And it feels better each and every time.
It's like you're Ellen DeGeneres.
What does she say? Hey.
No.
What's her like?
I think her sign off. She has a sign off, like something about being kind to one another or something.
Shut the fuck up, dude. It's you know
can
what?
tell what kind of mood we're in today.
Yeah, literally. It's all that. There's my god. I actually found out what that is. Like the word
Programming.
That's programming, but no, the word or way to describe when someone is so overtly something that it actually, the shadow is, like when Ellen, who we perceive to be so kind and all these things, and then it comes out like, whoa, this person is actually super dark and treats the staff inappropriately and all that. There's like a word for that when someone is perceived to be, someone is showing something, but they actually, I don't even know what that is. I need to find out what it is. Because it's sometimes with the gurus, where completely. The gurus are like.
Well, I think it's a form of manipulation.
Yeah,
to kind of get.
Oh yeah,
something.
Yes.
Well,
anyways,
welcome.
Ellen,
it's us. Welcome to the pod. If you're new, we are over 500 episodes in, but I'd say, catch up on the last 200 or so.
Some people are like, I'm just making my way through. I'm like,
don't go too far back.
Yes.
You don't have to.
This girl at the place I get my nails done was like, oh, I listened to your podcast. I'm like, huh? Oh yeah. And she's like, I started episode 1. And I was like, huh? She's like, I didn't really know what's going on. I'm like, I didn't either. I didn't either, honey. And she looked kind of like scared.
Don't start at episode
Who starts
1?
at 1?
Oh,
you know what's funny
Lord
is I've watched most shows backwards. Girls, I started at the end.
I don't
Game of Thrones, saw the end one and then worked.
Oh, you know who I was walking behind? Dinkle, whatever. What is his name? What's his last name?
Oh, the
What?
Dinklage?
Dinklage.
Who is that?
Dinklage. What's his character's name? Anyway, I don't want to.
From Game of Thrones?
Yes. He lives in Brooklyn. And he was just taking a walk, and I was walking behind him.
I mean, that's a whole. Oh my God, Peter Dinklage.
Yeah.
Who was?
What's his name in Game of Thrones?
Tyrion Lannister. Wow, that's actually fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that show was an absolute disaster. You guys, I literally just finished it. It was so actually after I finished it, I was watching tons of YouTubes because I felt so confused.
YouTube's about Game of Thrones?
Like, hey, this is where they went wrong. Like, it was like I needed a support group because I was like, I'm going to commit to this. We're going to watch it. We watched Game of Thrones. Honestly, it was so hard because it's so gory and it's so violent and so sexual in the first couple seasons. But then after, it just becomes a freaking mess.
Really?
Where these storylines and these characters and these ideas are brought in and then never done anything with.
I feel like shows need to know when it's time.
Oh, they were trying to be done.
Yeah.
And they tried to be done, and then they were done in the worst way possible. Like, I mean, it was just, I afterwards was like, if I cared a lot and was in process of watching the show each season as it came out, there'd be a hole in my heart that I wouldn't know what to do with. Because even now I walk around, I'm like, how did that happen? Heartbreaking. Anyways, 10 years later on the Game of Thrones train, if anyone wants to talk about it. I was actually talking about it with Jenna. We had lunch on my birthday. I'm a Pisces. So we had lunch at the Surf Rider in Malibu, which is beautiful, with my other friend Jenny and my other friend Jordan. And we were actually talking a lot about female friendships. And we were talking about just like how beautiful but also painful it can sometimes be within female friendships and how confronting it can be. And, I think the experience is different for everyone. But for me, it's felt like some of the most heart-wrenching things have been because of or an experience with a female friendship.
Yes. Yeah, I completely agree. And yeah, I'm thinking about that and I'm like, is it because I'm also a female? So it's like this weird, I don't know, like simultaneous self-reflection and kind of reckoning with parts of myself, or is it like mother woundy? Is it sister woundy? Like, there's so many ways it can go.
Yes.
And then we're also in like a society where I feel like there's like the patriarchy and there's so many layers
Yes.
to it. But I completely agree. The most complicated, complex, dramatic.
Yes. I think it's mother woundy for me because, you know, Bethany Webster, who's been on the pod, she has the book Discover the Inner Mother, which I highly recommend. You can dig into our mother wound episodes. But she talks about how the mother is life. Your mother, when you are growing up, is literally life. So with female relationships, it feels like your life is over. For me, there's like this deep fear. Yeah. You know, there's this like, there's like it's just way harder with the masculine for me, or with, you know, a relationship with a man as my preference. It's like that has felt like it's like I can be like, whatever, you know, and just, and that's obviously bypassing my emotions and my heart and my feelings, but it's easier to do that than with women. I'm like, fucking,
I know. Well, yeah, with women, for me, sometimes I have more of the tendency to be like, is this even worth it?
For sure.
I think we were talking about this the other day. I'm just like, I don't know if I feel like this is worth it.
Totally.
Because it can get so in it. And I'm like, I'm tired.
I know.
Which is not the way to be. Like,
I know.
I think relationships take work. I think they can be hard. You have to really pour in. You have to like stay when it gets hard. But sometimes I just want to dip.
Dude, I know. That's so real. I think about that too, because I struggle where I'm like, I want to have intimacy in relationships, and that means survival through conflict. But then sometimes you're like, when is this? Yeah. You know, when do we, but it's interesting how female friendships, it's like a lot of times they start off so hot. Yeah. And then it's like things come up and then it's like, bye. Yes. You know? Totally. But it's hard because you're like, it's weird. With men, it's easy for me to express my needs and my desires and sort of not easy, but it's easier. It's actually not easy. But with women, I just kind of lose the plot. I'm like, what?
Why do you think that is?
Obviously, because my mom.
Oh, okay.
You know, it's like, was not ever okay to have needs or to express my needs.
Right.
Or
okay.
So it's like with women, like if we'll get in conflict, I'm like, what do you want?
Yeah.
You know, what could I do
to pacify this?
Yes, to pacify this, to make it okay. But then again, you know, we've talked about this before too. Like female friendships can be really beautiful and nourishing and important, you know?
Well, I think that's kind of like, I'm not surprised that like these hard relationships are the ones that have the power or the potential to transform you and just like really bring about like your deepest healing and greatest potential as a human being. Like it is those like really, I don't know, just kind of
does it stop?
Hard ones. I know.
Dude, I literally am like, stop. Now I know why people like live in like a farm alone.
I know. But we're social, you know, we're meant to be with people.
Yeah.
We're meant to. But I also think that women have more of a tendency to, and this is a gross generalization, to like lean more on the group to kind of like
I think
source their, and I don't know if it's like source their intuition or just like get to the answer. Whereas like what you're saying, like just kind of live on a farm by yourself, like that idea of kind of alone time. I don't know if that's like as supported in like a group of women, say a group of female friendships, than would a man, would a male group.
Totally. I mean, the females all, the compassion, the empathy, the social, the sociable, you know, it's like part of our nature to be in community with other women, to be in conversation, to be like even the mystics or the witches or, you know, the people in the tribe that support the family. So I don't think it would be. And I think it's in our nature to be that.
Yes.
It's just like sometimes it's like, what?
I know, I need a break.
I know. It's like, it's a lot of psychic shit too. Mm-hmm. You're like, what's happening psychically? Do they want me to succeed? Do they want me to succeed? Do they not?
Totally.
Do I want myself to succeed? Do I not? I I don't even know.
Holy moly.
I think you guys are going to really like this episode. This was with our friend Jenna Reiss. She is so amazing. I love her so much. She's just so special and such a good listener and so present and so like committed to the work. She's someone that I feel like I'm never afraid to say how I feel. I'm never afraid to be myself. And I felt so supported from her over the years. She's really been important to me and to both you as a support or reference for us.
Yeah, she has like, her heart has been opened since we met her. You know, like she's just such a big heart. We met her back. Oh my gosh.
I think you met her.
I met her. It was like Lululemon days when I was an ambassador.
We did that Lululemon event.
We did an event and she spoke along with this other guy. But she was the star. And yeah, I just love her so much. And we laughed a lot in this. And we also got super deep. Dude, her notes from this, she took notes. Okay. Like we're interviewing her. She was taking all of these like little scribble notes and it was so cute. But I saw it at the end. I was like, whoa, we went in so many different places, but the thread was there and it was like a beautiful, what I think is like a model for these types of conversations around, you know, pain, you know, processing pain, around really holding a love frequency even when you want to just freaking rip.
Yeah. Jenna is a breathwork facilitator here in Los Angeles. She also is a doula and she works with clients one-on-one. She teaches classes on Zoom. She has her own really beautiful practice and she supports a lot of people in their spiritual evolution and their spiritual journey, mostly through breathwork. But she is incredible. Her breathwork changed our entire retreat.
Yes.
You know, she facilitated a breathwork session at our retreat in Malibu a few years ago, and it was like the session that broke everyone open. And I know you're a huge fan of breathwork. I am not yet, but I will get into it. So in this conversation, we talked about the idea of coming home to yourself, you know, what that actually means. How do we do that over and over again in this timeline? And how do we, you know, how we rush the healing process, I think is important. And we talked about that too. We talked about compassion for another's experience, how that begins with compassion for the self. We talked about letting the love outcreate the hurt, talking a little bit about pain, which is what Lindsay was talking about. And then we spoke on catching the thing, the hurt, the defense that is cutting you off from love, and how can that be a point of reflection?
Yeah, I know you guys are going to absolutely love this. I know you guys are absolutely going to love this one. You can follow Jenna on Instagram at Jenna M. Reiss. So that's JennaMreiss. And her website is jennareiss.com.
We have 500 or so other episodes for you to dig into after this. They are in the health, wellness, spirituality space. If you are new, welcome to our community. You can go to almost30.com. We have tons of blog posts, which are free resources for you. We have a free quiz. Which star seed are you? So which star system are you from? You can check that out now at almost30.com.
We will see you on the other side. Enjoy this one. Never before has it been easier to get recommendations for supplements. You can go to humnutrition.com. You're going to take their quiz and they're going to recommend about 5 supplements. And then you can speak to a registered dietitian and they will also help to refine your recommendations and answer any questions. We have been obsessed with Hum for years. They're a staple in my supplement routine. They're formulated by experts and rigorously tested, which is what you should care about. They need to be potent and clean and clinically proven. So if you want to, for example, clear your skin, improve your sleep, if you want to grow your hair, maybe you want to balance your mood or just overall get a healthier body going on, go to humnutrition.com. I wanted to shout out some of my favorites of all time and that I've been taking for years now. Every single day, I take the Daily Cleanse. This is helpful for clearing my skin and cleansing my body. It has a formula of really powerful detoxifiers, 14 of them to be exact, including chlorella and spirulina. So this is really great if you are experiencing breakouts. This supports the body's natural detoxification processes. eliminates impurities in the body. It also has green algae, which is great to support normal digestive function. And it has antioxidants and minerals as well. So I take that every single day. I also really love OMG Omega the Great. So this supports even skin tone and heart and brain health. If you are not getting your omega-3 fish oil, this is the one for you. It's ultra pure. It doesn't have that fishy taste, and it is incredibly effective. If you want to go to humnutrition.com, take that quiz, do it real quick. It takes 2 seconds. You'll get some recommendations. And of course, you'll get a discount with the code almost30, 20% off first orders of $29 or more. Humnutrition.com. Use our code almost30 for 20% off your first purchase of $29 or more. Okay, one of my favorite memories as a preteen and teen is doing my nails at home. It's like so fun for me. It's relaxing. I get to be creative. Get to make my nails look beautiful. And now as an adult, I am bringing this back. I am bringing the at-home manicure back with the help of Olive and June. They are my manicure BFFs. I used to go to their salon in Santa Monica, actually. Shout out. But now they have perfected the at-home manicure and are helping people all over the world do their nails at home and at an affordable price. So their Mani system is what I want to talk to you about today. It's everything. It's literally everything you need for salon perfect nails at home. Let me break down the system for you and what you get. You get the polish of your choice. I chose to get 6 polishes. The colors are going to blow your mind. They have so many. I wasn't overwhelmed. I was just excited. Okay. And it's an incredible polish. It includes the base coat. It doesn't ship for 7+ days. It's unbelievable. You also get the limited edition mint poppy. Okay, so the poppy is what you put onto the nail polish cap itself so you can hold the brush properly. You also get a box to hold all of this stuff. It's super, super cute, and a little pouch. And then you get the Cuticle Serum. So this is really beautiful. It keeps your cuticles nice and hydrated. No one likes a dry cuticle. You get the super glossy top coat. Okay, so the top coat is next level. You're going to shine. Shine, shine, shine is going to look so fab. You also get the cleanup brush. I think this is my favorite part. So basically, you are perfecting your manicure using the cleanup brush. You can just dip it into the polish remover pot, which also comes with this system, and you can clean up your manicure. It's amazing. Then you have the acetone-free polish remover pot, which I mentioned. You can just like dip your fingers in, wiggle it around, and your polish is off. You get a straight edge nail clipper. Straight edge is the key, so you can create the shape of your choice. The dual grit Mani file. You are going to love this nail file. I'm pretty picky about my nail files. This one is the best. And salon quality nail buffer bar. So we love a buff. We love a buff. They do it right. The founder of Olive and June has gone through this process and just been like, okay, what has worked and what hasn't? Let's perfect this. Let's make this the best at-home manicure of all time. If you go to oliveandjune.com/almost30, you're going to see all of their products. You're going to see before and afters, different tutorials. They are so supportive of their community and just helping you become the best at-home manicurist of all time. I'm just having such a blast. So I'm curious what your Mani mood is, what your colors that you're going to choose. Let me know. Go to oliveandjune.com/almost30. You are going to get an incredible discount of 20% off your first Mani system. So try it out. oliveandjune.com/almost30. That's oliveandjune.com/almost30. This is for 20% off your first Mani system.
I love that you have a little notepad and pen. Like, what the hell?
I know. Welcome.
Okay, you're like, you're literally ready. You're like, and you're laughing. You're like, ha. I'm like, dude, drop the pen. We have the pens.
Here's why my pen situation, because you ask a question and this is what I've learned happens to me in any kind of podcast interview. The like intuitive response, like the thing I know I want to say starts happening, but then that thing leads me to the other thing, and then there it goes, and the question's gone. And so I'm like, oh shit, I got to bring it back to the question. So I've learned for myself, I always have a little space where I can be like, this was the question. Because if I can just look at it again, then I'm like, yes, I know exactly where this was supposed to round back. So that's why I have my
teach us about podcasting.
Wait, that's smart.
That's smart. That's really smart.
Because how often do we interview people, which I don't mind all the time, but where they're like, how did I get here? What was your question?
I know.
I'm like, I don't know.
I know. And I'm always like, is that my fault? Or is that like...
it's like you got to channel that Joe a little bit where he's like, okay, let's go back to that question.
Yes.
The question? The question.
There was a situation the other day where you asked a question and the answer was so literally not the question. It was so wild. And I was
trying to think what that was.
I'll think about I'll tell you later what the interview was. But I was like, yo. And I was realizing, I'm like, was she picking up on a psychic question?
Oh,
yeah.
Like, I was like, oh, was there a psychic message that was asking her the question? It was weird, but it wasn't like egregious. Like,
totally.
but it was just, I was literally thinking, I'm like, I thought she was answering the question you really wanted to ask, but asked another. It was very interesting.
Oh, that's cool. Was she a psychic?
Yeah, no, it actually wasn't in that one. I have to think about who it was. It actually wasn't in that one. But I was like,
I mean, but you guys have been tapping into your intuitive powers.
yes. And we have so many psychics on. I mean, that would 100% be.
And when we're in like a vortex like this, which I'm sure we are about to get into, you just kind of like,
yes.
You
I actually
click.
I feel bad sometimes for guests that don't understand energetics because when you sit down at this table, it is you blast off.
Yep,
Yeah,
totally.
and the way me and Lindsay stare at people, like we're just listening to like the fucking core of their soul when we talk. You know what I mean? We listen so hard.
Wait, not everybody talks to each other like that.
I know.
I know.
That's actually one of my
Right?
favorite things about you is the way that you listen and the way that you communicate. Like I am someone, it's very much my natural, it's my love language, yes. And it's my natural inclination to assume people aren't really listening to me. And the way that you communicate with me, it's like my younger self is always like, yes, she really hears me.
Oh, that's so, you know what, I'm so honored because that's the greatest compliment I feel like with the work that I do that I could ever receive.
Yeah.
But also it is really interesting that you even allow yourself to see that comes back to that little girl in you being like, thank you. Like that little girl in you being so happy. There's just something really beautiful about that. The fact that you're even able to say, oh, look, my little girl was able to get validated today and she had some time in the sun, you know?
Yes.
There's something beautiful
She
about
got
being able to
heard.
see that.
What is like, have you always been a good listener or is it just in your work?
You know, I don't know if you guys felt this way when you started your work, but one of the things that always made me laugh was I remember when like coaches became really big and like started, I don't know if they were always big, but I kind of felt like there was a coach boom and everybody I knew was part of a coach. And I was like, this is really interesting. Like, what are these things? And I like, I was like an avid fan.
You're a coach?
I love that because most of the country literally is thinking that still.
Yeah.
They're like, what are these things?
Totally. And I've been in therapy my whole life. I'm like, I'm good at the self-reflection. So I was like, more people to help me self-reflect. Like, what is this? Like, so I remember, I can't remember whose it was, but I saw someone's thing once and one of the coaches' things, and it was something like, what are the things that you do you're already doing? And like, those are the things you could get paid for. And I was like, well, yes. And I kind of was like, isn't that what everybody's doing? Like just following the things that they know their heart enjoys doing. Like to always be a good listener for me it's because I really like listening to what you have to say. Like I'm really curious about people's stories. I'm really interested in where people are coming from with things. I want to go into the big and the deep always. I want to go and I live in that space. So it's a natural part of who I am. And in order to do that, I have to listen. But when that coach said that thing, I was like, oh, I guess that's what I do. So kind of, I guess I kind of was always a good listener. But I'm also, as you both know, a talker. So it's we get sucked into that vortex too.
And you just bring an energy to it. But I do think with listening, like I'm a good listener. You know, the part of me that was like listening as a response because that's how I felt safe and that's how I felt needed and that's how I felt validated was being like a good listener for, you know, and kind of like abandoning myself to listen and support the group in that way. But there is also like a healing that you have to do to be a truly good listener because I've noticed that with the more healed I am, obviously long way to go, you're able to really listen to people without ego. You know, Lindsay's like the best listener ever too, because there's no ego. There's no conversation that's going on in their head about how this applies to them, how they can make it about them, how they can, or how the ego is going to reply. You know, it's really that like hollow bone, like Kiki, our healer, talks about, where you can really be in service to the conversation, in service to the communication.
Yeah. What you just said reminded me of what we started talking about when we walked in the door, because, right, it's like when you can't hold space for the other person to speak their truth or speak what they're going through, there's usually it's because either you have too much whatever going on in your own life space that you it's just like I can't, I physically don't have the space, or there's the other side of it, which is that their wounds are hitting your wounds. So their conversation, their things that they're talking about are hitting your stuff, which is usually then when it's, like you said, I abandon myself to be able to be in the group setting. So I feel like that's what I'm curious about. I'm curious about what can happen when we are in conversation, and not as a point of attack either. Like, hey, what you just said hit this wound that I'm feeling, and this thing that I've been working on, and you can both be like, interesting, wow, I didn't mean to do that, and oh no, you didn't do it, right? It's like, what if we're not like, I'm sorry that I did that, but rather like compassionately trying to understand the other person's experience, compassionately trying to understand where they're coming from. I feel like we would all be a little bit better listeners, better conversationalists, more connected to each other.
Yes. Yeah, it's like it's a mindfulness around like when you abandon yourself in conversation with people and when you're trying to defend yourself. It's like it leans both ways. If it leans both one way or the other too much, then there isn't that center to come back to ground you in the conversation.
Right.
And for me, that's mostly like abandoning myself, and then I'm like, oh fuck, what do I think? But that doesn't serve the other person either. So, but with the wounding, like hitting another's wounds, I feel like how do you describe that? Like, how would you unpack that? Like, what is actually happening there? Because I feel like it can happen a lot.
Yeah. I mean, it happens all the time.
Yeah. A lot, whether it's collectively or individually. And sometimes even with people you love the most or you see the most, where it's like, whoa, we're just in this pattern of like, boom, boom, boom.
Yes. I mean, I think the first sign that you have a wound that's been either, whether it's been hit or activated or it's kind of coming up, is a defense. The defend word, right? If there's any part of you that like instantly wants to put your hands in front of you're like ready to fight, like that was always my go-to. Other people's are the abandon themselves, like kind of disassociate, leave
fight.
their body. Mine's fight. I need to make
Point
that
to
clear.
me. That's
yeah,
me.
literally. Leave the body. This one. That's amazing. I mean, it is. It's like you notice it happen.
Yes.
And over time, it might be after the fact. It might be upon reflection that you notice it happens. But I think that's the thing. It's the defense. It's the I've left my body. It's the pain. Like when you hear something and it was like, ooh, that hurt. Okay, that hurt. Now this isn't to absolve and like everyone gets to just like walk around and poke at each other's pain points. No, I mean, it requires intentionality. It requires compassion, and this requires a deep willingness to self-reflect. But if we are able to say in that point to me, oh, I just noticed I got defensive, something's clearly been activated. I've just noticed that that really hurt something, right? But then and that's where it gets tricky. The other person, if we're able to say that, like I feel like I'm at a point in my life where I say that. But when you say that and the other person is like, then they defend, right? Or they abandon, or they go into whatever their wounding is. So I think it's tricky. It's noticing when it's time, when it's the right and a safe space for you to say it out loud. Like, oh, this thing has been hit. This thing has been triggered. This wound has been activated, versus let me take that and self-reflect with it and do some healing work and, lean on your spiritual tools and lean on the things that help you take a look at it. I kind of like to see it as like an excavation. Each time one of those things happen, it hurts. And when it happens, I mean, it does not feel good. I had one with my dear friend, earlier this week. It doesn't feel good. And it's also like really cracking me open. It's really allowing me to go a little bit deeper into my own journey and into my own healing. And so, look, I would love for us to all just be in healed bodies walking around all the time. But I think the reality is can we have compassion for one another's lived experience? And can we identify when our own stuff has been hit so that we can do the work for ourselves, on ourselves, right?
Yeah, I always have to, it's kind of like a flow, it's like the activation and then it's like defensiveness. And then it, eventually it comes to the place where I'm like, oh, finally I can see this other person's perspective from a place that feels more integrated. But you have to really give yourself time for that process. Because I find if you come too soon to the conversation or situation, you're coming, and this is me speaking for myself, I guess, I'm coming from the place where I am like the defensive. I am kind of like the hot response. I am kind of in the ego. And so I think too, giving yourself, and this is harder, I think, in romantic relationships because you're living in the same place, you're together. You can't really give yourself like the space and grace as much as you could with a friendship or a relationship you don't have access to every day, or a family could be also in that. But it's like, how can you allow yourself space so you can go through the process? And then that gets shorter every time.
Yes.
Where you're like, okay, now I'm seeing.
Yes.
But I think it was interesting, in talking about this, because a lot of the people listening are very on their healing journey. They're very much aware of what's happening. They understand when they're activated. They understand when their wounding is triggered. But I think a lot of people that they're interacting with don't always understand. So it feels sometimes like they're understanding, okay, this is wounding for me. And then they're talking to someone that maybe is unconscious and doesn't understand their wounding. So what is the normal, how would you say or suggest for people to work with that?
I really feel most and foremost that it's not your job. We have to take responsibility for our own selves and our own healing. And it is really hard, especially when it's a loved one. It's their path. The image that comes to mind that sort of like dropped in as you described that was like two people on a ladder, right? Walking through, that their ladder is their life. And they're just like walking through their life. They're climbing their ladders. And with loved ones, especially with a partner that you're living with, let's say, you get to choose, like, how long do you keep your hand out for that person? You're like, hey, this thing that's been, I've noticed I'm activated. You're being unconscious about it, whatever that is. And you're like, okay, I'm going to choose how long I'm going to hold space and keep my hand out for you to work through that, to look at that, to manage that on your own. And it's also your choice when you're like, okay, no problem. I'm going to take my hand away too. That's where you come up with the boundaries and you see where you need to take care of yourself. I think actually in friendships is when it's hardest because in the conscious relationship, that's my personal opinion, in a relationship in love, you're choosing to be with that person often. And so it's, you can kind of choose how long you keep your hand out for. Friendships, you're like, okay, do you want to cut the relationships off? Is that what it is that you need to do? If they're not identifying their own wounding, if they're being defensive and you're noticing that there are things activating your thing, like how it's really the question comes to what is in the best interest of my highest good? And when I ask that question of me, it's not my job to educate. I can speak my truth about what I need to speak to on it. And in my heart, know that when I'm connected to the vibration of love, when I'm connected to the vibration of the universe, whatever, words you want to use for that, when I'm connected to myself, it's okay that they don't. It's like, it really is. It's okay that you didn't see that activated, that you don't understand me explaining it, that you don't see your own stuff there. It's okay. It's truly in my heart okay. If when it's not okay is that I still got work to do on myself, because like I'm feeling right. It's like I've still got some reflection on this piece, right? And I think it's the hardest thing to do, because you love these people and we want these people in our life. And I'm not a big fan of like, let's cut all the people out. I just don't really feel that serves my best interest. My best interest for my highest good is connection. Like I thrive in connection, and that's with people that I love from all walks of life. And so to allow space for that, for me, it's like space and grace for everybody to go through their version of it. But man, yeah, it's work for you, for yourself. You have to be really willing to sit back down and look at that thing that was activated for you, and what is it that I'm going to do with that now that I know that it's been activated, right?
And sometimes I feel like there's this default of taking responsibility for what the other person might not understand in the moment about what's really happening, you know? And I say that with love. I don't mean like to shit on the person that doesn't realize what's happening, but it's almost like you're taking on both rather than allowing them to have their experience, because they're having an experience that is perfect for their
and
soul, you know,
which
so
does them a disservice.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So it's, yeah, there is, and that brings in a little bit of the coach and that whole world situation where it's like, and we see it on a collective level on social media, where it's like, look to this person to kind of guide you, tell you how to live and all of these things, which, you know, I'm not saying is inherently bad, but we have to be careful too.
Yeah.
You know, whether you are a coach and taking responsibility or like you are looking to these people, how do you, in working with people, like how have you been able to just energetically create that, I don't want to say boundary because that doesn't sound right, but like create that relationship so that they won't ever depend on you?
That's an interesting word choice that you used, though, was the word depend. I'd answer that in kind of a couple different ways. First, I would say trusting myself enough. I trust myself enough that I know I don't have to take that on. I know it's not mine to take on. I know it does them a disservice to take it on as much as it does me. So there is this real, true, innate trust that's there, but it took time. Might be a funny example story, but when I started teaching breathwork, I actually started by teaching the breathwork workshops my mom came to every single workshop. Like every single workshop across Los Angeles. She did breathwork. She was all in. It was so wonderful and so amazing. My mother is amazing. And she was just all in on her own healing journey. She was like, let's go. I'm in for it. I'm here for it. And she's like kept going. I had to learn some boundaries pretty quickly right there, right? It was pretty clear that I wasn't going to be able to hold space for a group of people if I'm getting sucked into my mom's stuff, right? Then it's a private session for my mom, which is not something I'd recommend.
That'd be hilarious to like see everyone laying and she's like yelling louder. She's like, Mom! You're like just like kind of trying to get your attention every time.
Oh my God, exactly. And so I don't even know if she knows this. So when you listen, you'll find out. But that was my boundary practice, I guess is what I should say. And that's what it sort of like kickstarted me in really, really quickly. Because prior to that, I felt like, and I do still think this way sometimes, that, you know, as a highly empathetic people, like a giant walking wound walking through life. And I'm like, wait, am I a wound? Am I just raw? Am I like, what? It's like sometimes like the sensations of the world can just feel too much. And so until I had found breath work, once I did, and I started really doing this deep inner work on myself, and then my mom started coming to sessions, it really happened very quickly as it relates to seeing the boundaries. So I'd say the first thing was trusting myself and learning that trust early on and growing that trust with myself that I don't have to heal you. I don't have to do anything. Actually, I also trust the work enough to do the work on you on its own, on your path. So the word depend to me never really like came in, but what did when you said that, and it just does happen, is when I'm activated, right? With whatever it is, the other person's stuff that they're working on in private session, in a group session, if I'm activated and I can feel it, the best way that I draw that boundary is by claiming it out loud, right? Energy is, especially for the highly sensitive people, you can feel it. So you start to feel something and you went, oh, I was just feeling okay right a second before that, but now all of a sudden I feel this feeling. And it was easy to start to go, oh, this isn't mine. I get it. It's in the groups. It's coming from here. And so it took time and practice to hone, but speaking it out loud to me is one of the, and again, you have to be tricky when you do that with friendships, like friends talking to you. You're not going to be like, that sadness you're feeling, friend, that's not mine. Like that's not exactly being compassionate. But what you can do is say that in your own head. Oh, interesting. I'm feeling really sad for this person, and that's not mine to hold. It's okay that I put that down. And giving myself permission by claiming that I was even feeling that allowed me to put it down. And I know for a fact it made me a better healer, and it made me more empathetic, a better listener, because I was doing them such a disservice if I did take it on. So now for me, it's all, I just lean heavily into the claiming and the trusting of myself, of the work. And that allows that sort of boundary to naturally exist. And now I don't even really feel like it's something that I have to do often, which is great.
How did you build that self-trust?
Oh, lifetimes of being alive, right? I mean, I personally feel like everything ladders back to love in one way or another. And this vibration of love is self-love. Like, I love the baths, I love the tinctures, I love the things. So do all the self-care things. But like I'm talking about a kind of love that, like, when you feel a little, like when you feel pain, when you've gone through hardship, and you can viscerally feel like almost this little hole in your heart, right? And the best example I think that we know of it as a collective is heartbreak. Is consistently identifying that hole right there is really just wanting love from me, maybe from other people, but it's masking that it's needing the love from me. And so for me, it's always been about going into that so that I don't explode all over people, right? I mean, like, again, I think one thing that we have wrong in this world is that we think spiritual tools are meant to make us feel better, and they're really not. They're there to help support you through the hard, right? They're there to hold your hand through the hard. And so for me, it was like, do all the things, lean on all of the care things in order to start to grow that love for myself and for what I'm doing and how I'm doing it and who I am and how I show up. And that naturally led itself to trust. And honestly, I also think, and I think this is true for a lot of people, a lot of intuitives, sometimes you're like, this is really weird. I have no idea if this is at all what's there, but I'm going to say it. And then, of course, it's like it nails something on the head, right? So sometimes it's also just loving yourself enough that you're not afraid you're going to be weird or look funny or be wrong, and there's no attachment to the wrong. If you have no attachment to the wrong, then it doesn't really matter, right? And then it's all completely okay. And yeah, and then also like knowing too, and that was a big thing for me, was like learning that I was going to cause harm by my own unconscious stuff sometimes in life. And so that was like a huge, deep learning moment too. And as I was going through that healing moment, I came out of that with more trust. So I think, how do you learn to trust? How I learned how to trust myself is just like a consistent check-in through those practices. But I think it's forever, right? I mean, I think we sometimes leave ourselves and we reinvent ourselves and we shut off a new layer and then we uncover a new part, and there's a new layer of trust you have to then lean into. So I also think that we have a lot of high expectations of ourselves, that like, this happens, that person over there is the unicorn, like they can do that, but like I can't do that. And it's, everybody has their own version of it. It's just, what are you choosing to do with it? Are you ignoring it, pushing it down, or can we pull it up and love yourself a little more through it?
When it comes to like your own self-guidance and trusting yourself and kind of, I guess tuning in with your intuition into your life decisions and your path, has that felt easier, harder than working with other people? What has that been like, especially as like, I feel like just the very real world of being an adult, making these decisions of like homes and relationships and jobs and all of these things. Like, what has that journey been like, especially related to your intuition?
I'm gonna start with like the easier, harder. In one way, it's easier to trust it with other people because I'm not as attached naturally to their outcome, right? So I can hear it and feel it loud and clear, and then it comes through, and whatever the things are, then it's theirs to do with, right? So in one way, I feel like it's if I'm speaking like easier, harder, I'd say easier in a way to trust that with other people. But the funny thing is, it's like we all know this. If you've read any, book about even spirituality, I feel like one of the things you start to really learn early on your spiritual journey is the more you listen to it, the more it speaks to you, the more it speaks to you, the more you can listen to it, and it just grows and builds that relationship. So sometimes now it's actually like something will happen and I'll be like, oh, that I didn't say that out loud. That didn't already happen. It's happening now. It's like a feeling of deja vu almost. So sometimes my fiance will be like, really? I'll do it in the silliest examples. I'll pause a TV show and I'll be like, here's what's going to happen on the TV show. And he's like, really? Did you have to do that? Sorry. It's just, I just needed someone to know that I know what's about to happen. He's like, so that always makes me laugh. But it's like, right. I also feel like if I stuff that down and I don't say that as silly of an example as that is, that I'm ignoring this part of me that wants this thing to be listened to or said out loud. But I mean, yeah, it's not hard. I wouldn't call it as hard for me. It's more like, how much are the nerves there? How much of the fear is there? And also, am I doing it, right? Like, we bought a house recently and I was like, okay, here's all the things that could be wrong with it. But like, the universe literally gave me the clearest of signs. It like couldn't have dropped in any. It just was like a joke. Like, if I'm not listening to this, like, they're like, joke's on you. So I was like, okay, it's so crystal clear. Here's the intuition. It's so crystal clear, but I'm afraid. And then to me, it's just a matter of working with the fear that's there. Like, that's okay. It's okay to be afraid of the things that intuition are telling you. And then I also think it works the other way, right? I have a client who will talk to me about her, relationship. She's in this great relationship. She feels really good in this relationship, but she's afraid of the commitment. And she's like, why am I afraid of the commitment? And one of the things that we often will come back to is it's not necessarily about trying to make that fear go away. That, like, by just acknowledging it and claiming that it's there, you're doing your job for yourself. You're listening to yourself. So I do feel, for me, like it's not really even an easier or harder thing. I'd say when I'm really attached to something that I want or need or I'm looking for or creating. When I'm really attached to it, it's just allowing myself to truly look at the whole feelings around the attachment, because that's where I can spiral.
Yeah, it's weird. I feel like the more attached I am to something, the less I get it. Especially manifestation. Like,
for sure.
If I am attached, it's like slow going. If I'm like, I would like this, it's like, here is it on your doorstep.
Yeah.
If I'm like, this
sure.
would be nice, it's like literally gets delivered on my doorstep.
Yeah.
And also, when you're talking about, me and Lindsay were just talking about this earlier today, the fear and the intuition, because we've had a few situations with work where we've had the intuition saying no and telling us one thing, and then it's ended up being really good for us. And so now it's like, how can we peel that back and make that potentially be about fear instead of our intuition telling us something? Because we're trying to understand that, because everything we do is intuitively led, but there has been times where it's like, in quotes, what we're perceiving to be our intuition is wrong. And we've actually done something and it's against our intuitive hit, and it's been really good.
Yep.
I feel like that comes down to that word wrong, right?
Yeah.
It's just not that binary.
Yeah.
It's just not that right or wrong. Like, there could have been a reason why the intuition was saying no that you don't know, because you said yes and you went with the thing. but because you said the yes, it's almost like there is no wrong path, right? It's like, okay, so now that you've said yes, like, what are we going to do with that? Like, what's there now, right? It's and a little bit of like letting yourself off the hook too. Like, part of me feels, it's like part of me feels like this is part of that whole the patriarchal systems and structures of oppression that we have in the world, right? One of the things is like things are right and things are wrong, and the other one is like be good at this thing, or like study, be good at this thing, or if you aren't good at it, what are you're bad? I don't know what are you? It's like there is no right or wrong really with that intuition as it relates to your path. I mean, yes, of course, if you said yes, you went against the intuition, and what might happen, like, we don't know, but I also think, to me, because I believe in the universe being there to support you through your highest good. So it's like, okay, if you said yes, then like it wants to, it's like, how can I support you through that now that you've said gone against it, the intuition, right?
Yeah.
And it just to like expand even the ways in which we look at all of our spiritual practices, all the ways in which intuition, our relationship to our own self journey, like I'm good, I've been meditating every day. Like, okay, well, great, that's been serving you then. If you haven't been meditating every day, are you bad? No, of course not, right? I don't know. I just don't think it's as simple as that. I don't think it's as simple as why the whys. We don't know. We're not going to know the other path, that wasn't taken.
And I also think sometimes, like, or at least I consider the intuitive feeling or I desire it to feel easy, and it should just be so clear. And I think with some recent decisions, like within the business, it's like we have the intuitive hit, and then there are some like growth points being presented to us personally and as business partners and as leaders that kind of disguise themselves in like, well, this feels like a no then. It's almost like our rejection of the opportunity to grow as leaders or trust the team more, or whatever that is. And I think, like, for me, because we have each other, it's like we then feed off of each other where we're like, yeah, no. Yeah, dude. We're like, no, it has to be like, easy.
Fuck this shit. Literally, like, no. Yeah, it is facts. It's that belief too in the spirituality space and the self-help space, which is a very true thing, but also it's like needs a little bit of nuance brought to it, where everything good comes easy. Yeah. Where you're like, oh, because this path is very easy, then it was meant for me. And because this path flowed, it was meant for me, and it was right, and it was divine. And I've known things in my life that have flowed and been very easy and been very, very divine. But also I've known things that have been very challenging and been very divine. Yeah. So it's very interesting to think about that, because I do think it trips people up a little bit, where they have something, maybe a job, a relationship, a situation, where it provides its challenges, and it makes them think that it's not a divinely led path.
Yes. I'm going to just dive into an example of that, because that feels so clear. That was beautifully said, Krista. I'll naturally bringing this up on my own, but I'm in the process of writing a book that I have been writing for years. And I mean years, 5 maybe years. And pre-pandemic, so whatever, 2.5-ish years ago, I was working with an agent, and she had given me all these rounds of feedback on the proposal, and I was like, okay, I'm making the edits, and I made the edits, and then I sent it back, and we went through like 4 rounds. And I think the 5th round of edits came through, and I broke. It like broke me. I just like kind of fell. I don't even know any other way to describe it. I just started crying. I fell to the floor. I was like, I can't. I've been working on that. I had been writing the book for 3 years before that. I was working on the proposal for a year. It broke me. And so I put it down, and I didn't pick it up until end of last year. And I didn't even notice until I picked it back up again how much shame I had around having put it down, like truly deep shame that I had around having even put it down. It's like, oh my God, this path was given to me. I had the agent, like I had the offer, like this was happening, and I blew it, right? I was like beating myself up over this path. I blew it. So that's one way you could take it. Yeah, sure. Are there lessons in that? Absolutely there are. But the thing is, it's like, reprimanding myself was not feeling good or serving me to continue doing my work in the world. So why continue, right? The path was harder. Now, you could take that technically as one might say, okay, well, because that path's so hard, maybe I should throw my hands up and say the book's not for me. I'm not meant to write a book, right? Well, I know that's not true. I know that in my heart. The book's pretty much written. Like it's just these details that need to get sorted out. And so for me, and that this experience was about like holding on, and the shame that I felt too needs to be said is like was about the shame of like asking for more. And I think there's so much in that could even be talked about as it relates to the shame that sometimes women feel for wanting to ask for more, feeling like I was supposed to be feeling grateful for what I was given. That's this whole other path. But right, if you let that, and there's the one path, well, because that was hard and it didn't flow very well, I mean, that's one description for it, then is it not meant for me? No, I don't think so. I know not, it's not. As I know in my bones, I have the answer. So I'm not even going to like fuck with that. Like, okay. I mean, I did fuck with that for a while.
That's so funny. You're like, whatever, I'm not even fuck with that. Okay, I did fuck with it for weeks.
For a long time.
Yeah, literally.
Way longer.
That's shame. I fucked with it for a long time.
And then I was like, and this sucks. Like, the shame, like, what is eating me alive? Okay, so coming back to the truth, which was something higher and bigger than the details of the bullshit of the details, was bigger than that. So I'm going to come back to that and let that be guided now, right? So I don't know. There's like, again, it's like easy or hard. Like,
yes,
maybe it's not really about either. And it's just continuing to check in with yourself. I mean, I'm wary of anyone that thinks that they have all the answers, because like they don't, we all don't, in Buddhism, there's like that whole theory of as soon as you think you're an expert, you're right back to the beginning and you're a beginner again, because as soon as you think you know everything, you know nothing at all. But so I'm wary of anyone that thinks that they know everything, but I'm definitely wary of like the strict binary as well. It's like the right and the wrong, or this is the path or this is the path. It's like, I think that we got to check in for all those things for ourselves and really tap into that, power for yourself.
Yeah, the shame thing is so interesting, where
isn't shame always?
Yeah, where
Yeah,
like
dude.
where it just keeps you. Okay, this is what I want to say. It helps you to define what's happening. It's like a familiar feeling, and it keeps you where you are in a certain pattern, in a certain place, and so it like prohibits you from expansion. And expansion is unknown. Expansion is bigger than our mind can even wrap. You can't wrap your mind around it always. And so I feel like it's definitely a sneaky thing that I think is deployed into messaging in commercials, online, everywhere, for a reason. It keeps us at a certain level.
Yes.
So it's interesting when we deploy it on ourselves. It's like, oh, what is that? And it's neither good nor bad. It's just like, oh, that's so interesting. So it just makes me think of like, how can we reframe when we are feeling that shame to something like, I want to keep myself right here where I am because it's comfortable. Like, what would it feel like to expand beyond this, rather than being like,
Oh, I love that question. That's the question, right? What would it feel like to expand beyond this? It's also like you kind of have to get sick of your own shit.
Yes.
There is that element of that. I mean, the loop, the stuck pattern, the loop is a pattern for a reason. Like at some point in your life, it came in and it served you, and it's now no longer serving you. And so it's to be able to pull yourself out of that loop and recognize, but like, frankly, I don't even think like that example for me, I didn't even observe that. 2 years, I didn't touch it. I just like didn't touch it. And could you beat yourself up over that too? Sure. But that actually wasn't what I would beat myself up over. I just was like, it's not ready for me to pick up again. I'm not ready to pick it up again. So it's definitely not ready. But I do think you're completely right that it's about allowing ourselves to just, when we go into it, when you like really are ready to identify it, you go into it, then you can pull yourself out of the loop and just be like, enough, I'm sick of my own shit. Let's keep going.
Yes.
But sometimes I also think that it's like letting love out create the shame, the hurt, the pain, the thing. And it's tricky. I don't know how to even explain how we do that, but it's like show up for yourself anyway through the hard feelings, through the shame. And that's how you step into the expansion, right?
Yeah, I love that phrase. Let love outcreate the hurt, the pain.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird because when I feel shame, it's like I'll get sick of my shit, but then like the part of me that's like that part of me that's activated isn't encouraging. That's like that mean. There's a mean person that's mean to me, and it's that part of me gets activated. So there's a shameful part of me, and then the part of me that's sick of my shit is even meaner. So it's like sometimes I'm like, which part do I want to go with, shame, or do I want to go with that person that's like, oh, here we are, you know what I mean? Kind of. So it's interesting because I've heard of people say that where like I kind of got sick of my own shit. I'm like, oh, that brings me deeper, because it's like the shame is it's almost like that's the depression is the shame, or the anxiety is the shame almost. That's like the activating emotion or feeling, and then it's like this becomes depression because it's like, oh, it's interesting.
And I would even say, so if that was a session, if we were in session, I would be curious to know, like, okay, well, what's a third option, right? I hear that those are the two that is your lived experience. Is there another option? Like, what could that be?
Yeah.
Right? Because that's part of it too. Like, we get stuck in the thinking that the shame and the anxiety and then but sick of my own shit's even meaner. So I have to choose between those two. And it's like, hold on, what curtain can we lift to show that there might even be, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And that's like the true self, there's.
Yeah.
Well, then I have my third, and I was actually doing this in therapy, and because we were like, okay, we have her, we have like the Virgo part of me that's like, everything's perfect, I gotta make everything good, and then there's the part of me that's like, just like, really cruel, and then there's that third part of me that came in later, and I was like, oh wow, there's the rebel, where it's just like, fuck it, literally, like the fuck it part of me came in. I was like, oh,
blow it up,
literally. I was like, oh, there she is. But then there's the fourth, which is, there's a lot of the parts when we're talking about internal family systems. But then there's like the true self. It's like, what is the true self?
Yes.
Like, what's that opinion?
And I would even say that the fuck it girl was probably actually, like, that girl is the girl that's sick of her own shit, really. So, like, that's like the evolved sick of your own shit girl, right?
Yes,
Do you know what I mean?
That's true.
Like, that's you being like, all right, I'm done with that narrative.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, because at some point it does. It's really hard. And it's also true too, when you're in the thing, when you're in the voice of being mean to yourself, telling yourself that you're not enough, in the shame spiral, like sometimes it is as hard and as easy as reaching up and stopping the spiral.
Yes.
And like, okay, where's the earth? Get me to the ocean.
Yes.
Whatever the thing, reach up and start. Sometimes it is as easy and sometimes it is as hard as that, right?
Yes.
But that's why we have the therapists and the support team that are helping shine that light for you so that you can come back to true self, because ultimately you're the only one that really can, pull yourself there.
Yeah, I think it's important to have, whether it's a therapist or like someone in your life or a couple people that you can trust to kind of share this part of you that comes up and is overactive at times, so that when you share something that activates it, they can witness you and then also bring you back to truth.
Yes.
Because I think that also helps you practice.
Yeah.
Because they're not in the spiral, so they can kind of identify it, bring you back down, and then it's kind of helping you in being in that dynamic to then do that for yourself the next time.
And I think it's so interesting that you say that, because someone once asked me this question and now I use it all the time. It's like, if you could have all of the support team, like whatever, if money weren't a problem, like who would you pull in for your support team? And it could be like mental health, physical health, chef, chef, valet, like
literally driver,
yes. 100% driver,
right? You could be like, oh, someone's gonna like make me my flower tinctures, like that,
Yes.
I'm gonna have my own personal person like making me my perfume, like whatever. But the point to me is like, if you came up with that list, like just really looked at that whole list and then just kind of explored what even pulling in one or two of those things could look like for you, that's those people. That's your support team helping you see yourself. And yes, they need to be, you know, in my opinion, if they're good at their job, they help you see yourself. And that's really, it's just like, it's invaluable.
Yes.
We had Aaron Rose, our coach, who we've worked with for a few years, ask us that. I think it was the beginning of 2021. He's like, how are you resourced this year? And that was like such an up level for us, such a moment of like, if you are in service, like true service to God, the divine, and if you are in service to a lot of other people, to a community, to, you know, a family, whatever it is, whatever your service method is, like, how are you resourcing and supporting yourself? And I was like, whoa, you know, that's the biggest facts. Like, how am I supporting myself mentally, physically, emotionally, from a business level? Like, what are these ways in which, and being really proactive about it was so smart, because now we could employ a coach, a healer, you know, all these different things, like programs, whatever it is that we want to do. So we know that no matter what comes up, we have the resources ready to approach them.
Yes.
And that was like, I highly recommend anyone doing that, whether you can, whatever it is that your income level can afford, even if it's a friend that you're like, hey, I want you to be my resource this year. You don't want to be each other's resource, the community, whatever it is.
Yes, especially because when we talk about, you know, pain and depression and like true consuming anxieties, like you can't always see that list. Like you don't always have the energy or even the space to put that list together. So I like having that list. Same thing, having that list too. What's the things that are gonna and they're gonna change, and those people are gonna change. But they're really, we think that's part of the limiting belief thing too. We think that we can afford it or pull those things in, and it's just like, you'd be surprised. Like you could do. There is really affordable therapy out there. There is really, like, there's a lot of really incredible offerings that, you have to be in the headspace and have this space to make the list. But heck let's all make the list.
Yeah, it's like taking the time to do a little audit on what you are. And I would probably say that there are a good percentage of things that we might be spending our time and money on that are actually bringing us more anxiety.
Yes.
So are you paying $15 for Netflix every month to watch like really anxiety-ridden murder shows? Maybe.
Intense hit workouts.
Like, are you, you know, the coffee thing is whatever. Like, but it's those types of things where it's like, if we really sat down, drinking, socializing, buying, you know, clothes to satisfy, you know, it's like, I encourage people to, as Ramit says, live your rich life and whatever is important to you, spend money on. And I think it would behoove a lot of us to be like, what am I spending my money on?
Yes.
And can I reorganize that to be able to resource myself? Yeah. Especially in moments where I'm feeling like I don't have the support, like I don't have the resources to help me in moments of extreme anxiety or overwhelm, you know, and those little switches and those like advocating for yourself and prioritizing that, I think it's made such a difference for us.
Huge. There's an energetic to that too, where it's like, oh, I am serving a lot of people. I need to be resourced. Like, I am a woman of providing resource to others. I need to be really well resourced. And that was huge for us. And I think my money has been able to expand with how much we've been able to really take on in that way. And there is something for me personally, and maybe this isn't true for everyone, but when I'm paying someone, I'm able to really lean in a lot more.
Yes.
I think about that with my therapist, you know, because I was so resistant to therapy for so long. And I think before, maybe there was a small bit of it was just my trust issues with people, but a little bit of it was like, well, I have friends. I have deep, meaningful relationships where people can support me. And it's like totally different when you're coming in and you're like, this literally is my space. Yeah. There is nothing but me in this space.
Yeah.
I can't even ask you how you are.
Yeah.
Really.
I do sometimes.
I do too.
Yeah, I do. I always ask about, because so many people that I know go to her now. I'm like, how's them? She's like, I cannot say anything. Like, she's like, I cannot say anything. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah.
It is really an interesting thing too, when you said doing like the audit of the things in your life that are giving you the stress and the anxiety, because it also like part of that audit to me is like, and what are you trying to fill? What hole are you trying to fill with the things with those things, with the buying the clothes, with the anxiety inducing, right? When you could be putting that to whatever, therapy, a healer. I tell clients all the time, group workshops, people, I know that it's not your own personal time to talk about all your stuff, but like group breathwork workshops, they're so affordable.
Yes.
And you can get an immense, I mean, we've done them together at Camp Almost 30. You get 10 years
Our
of
retreat.
talk there at your retreat. Yeah.
That was insane.
It was insane. And you get 10 years of talk therapy. I mean, in one, breathwork session, point being, and you can do it for like $30, when you're doing that self-audit and we ask ourselves those questions, it's just, I think the thing that's tricky about it is our brains don't like change. And so we have to be consistently reflecting on, am I doing this thing because it's really actually supporting me, or is it just a thing because I've been doing it for a long time?
Yeah.
Right? And lean in.
Some people just, it's like crazy to me. I've realized this. Like, some people just don't ask the questions.
Yes.
Like, I was in Florida with my family, and like, it's like, I'm tired, or I'm, whatever my family was experiencing, some sort of thing. I'm like, well, why? Like, I don't know. It's like, is it something you ate? Is it something how you slept? Is it a supplement you're taking? Point. Did you get enough sun? Like, there's always like, and don't want to be too crazy because I could drive you crazy. How many questions I'm going to ask about it. But I just think it's interesting that people are having these experiences in their life, whether they're feeling uncomfortable, sad, unexpressed, whatever, and they're not questioning and digging a little bit deeper as to why this could potentially be. Like, there's so many factors that contribute to us feeling and experiencing life in a certain way that when we get curious about the why, and I wonder if do people see people having that experience and assume that it's normal? I think maybe they're assuming that that's the normal state.
I also think it's because it's hard.
I really mean it would require
work.
Effort.
Yeah, that's true.
It would require effort, and then also change.
Yes.
To your point, I think there's like a deeper knowing that things that they might be doing might not be good for them.
That's true.
And I just say that generally with people. Right. Anytime that I've had to like change a habit, there's always been a pretty decent time of resistance and denial.
Sure.
And I think now it's almost exciting to like change a habit and kind of see what works and what doesn't. But also it's just interesting that people are resistant to change. I get it because the mind is leading, but that's how I know my mind's leading if I'm resistant, because the nature of who we are is always changing.
Exactly.
So it's like,
it's
very interesting to resist what is natural.
And that by the resisting, we make it so much harder than it needs to be. Like, to your point with these questions you're asking, was it something you ate? Like, really all that has to happen is, what did I eat today?
Yeah.
And what might have activated? But I do think that there's also, whether it's a knowing or it's not, when we ask those questions, when you get that curious and you really go into it, and like you kind of said, Linz, like you get almost addicted to it because you're like, heck yeah, let's keep going, let's keep growing. But when you do that, the reason I'll say it as me, the reason I get addicted to that is because that means I'm always coming home to myself. Right? Like, what a beautiful way to live, to be consistently calling versions of yourself back home by asking these whys, by doing these things. And like, don't get me wrong, I don't do well with dairy, and like I had pizza at the Super Bowl. Like I'm intentional about it.
I had a whole pizza. It was fucking bomb.
It was so good.
It's bomb as shit.
Perfect time to eat that pizza.
Honestly, I was like, I literally love football. I love pizza.
Yeah. And then I saw a meme that someone said, you don't have to have a football game to eat a dip.
That's hilarious. That's so funny.
That's exactly how I felt. So like, there's time, but that's also part of it. That's the ebb and flow of life. There's times to get the really curious, to ask the whys, to let it be this beautiful coming home to yourself. And there's times to say, fuck it, and do the thing that feels, just good for you in the moment. And that's part of the balance of it. But I do think we make it a hell of a lot harder than it needs to be by resisting.
Okay. So is this you? You've tried everything to improve your health issues. I want you to stop guessing. This was me at one point, And I was like, you know what? I need to know exactly what's going on. I need to get to the root of my symptoms. I was experiencing fatigue and I was like, what the heck is going on? So I found Base. Base is an at-home testing system. It is so easy. I can send it out and get results back onto my phone, onto my app within 10 days or less. You can test things like hormones, vitamin levels, and just discover what's actually stopping you from feeling your best. We had on the founder of Base, Lola. She's amazing. And her story was just incredible in founding this company and why, and her own health issues and how she improved them. Whether you're experiencing brain fog, sleep issues, low sex drive, or weight loss or weight gain, this is an incredible way to find out exactly what is going on. So if you go onto their website, which is get-base.com and then /almost 30, get-base.com /almost 30, you can learn more about their tests. You can either do a little finger prick test or a saliva test, and they have many different tests, again, for your needs. Base is doctor and nutritionist approved. They use data from thousands of clinical trials to make their lifestyle recommendations. Their labs are safe and CLIA and CAP certifies, and they protect your data with the highest security to ensure your privacy. I really love that within the app, when I get my results, I'm able to get these recommendations of either supplements, lifestyle changes, etc., that make a difference right away. So if you're in the market for easy at-home lab testing, let's do this. Go to get-base.com /almost 30. If you're wanting to improve your stress, energy, sex drive, diet, or sleep, get-base.com /almost 30. You can also use the code almost 30 at checkout for 20% off your first month of membership. This is a membership because you get to retest, you get to keep up with your results and make sure that you are improving. Memberships start at $59.95 a month or $59.95 quarterly, depending on how frequently you want to test and optimize. It's totally up to you. Get-base.com /almost 30 to learn more, or enter the code almost 30 at checkout to save 20%. Code almost 30 at checkout to save 20%. Every single day without fail, I get my athletic greens on. Today, this morning, I put it into my smoothie. Some days I put it into a nice cold, tall glass of water. Either way, this daily supplement, which is just one scoop, has made me feel absolutely incredible. It's that simple. So AG1 by Athletic Greens, the category leading superfood product, brings comprehensive and convenient daily nutrition to everybody. Keeping up with the research, knowing what to do, and taking a bunch of pills and capsules is like very hard to keep up with. It's a lot. So if you're looking to get what you need in one scoop, I highly recommend trying AG1. It contains 75 vitamins, minerals, and whole food sourced ingredients, including a multivitamin, multi-mineral, probiotic, green superfood blend, and more in one convenient daily serving. It's unbelievable. It will improve your energy, your digestion, your immune system. It's delicious too. It has like this pineapple-y, vanilla, just light taste. I absolutely love it. I've recommended it to basically everyone I know. There's less than 1 gram of sugar in there. There's no GMOs, no nasty chemicals or artificial anything. They are obsessed with quality of their ingredients. Thankfully, I love them. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you an immune-supporting free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs of AG1 with your first purchase if you visit athleticgreens.com /almost 30 today. That's athleticgreens.com /almost 30. And with your first purchase, you'll get 1-year supply of vitamin D, which is insane and so important because most of us are deficient, and 5 free travel packs. So try it today, athleticgreens.com /almost 30.
Yes.
It's interesting because there's like another paradox of like, you don't ask the questions because you don't think you have the power. But then sometimes when I think about in this situation with my family, they're not asking questions because they don't believe they have the power to change the outcome. But then there's also the other side of it where you ask so many questions because you're looking for answers outside of you. You want to find, okay, so is it my sleep? I need to check my Oura ring, and then I need to check my, you know what I mean? You're finding answers from like people on Instagram, people online. So it's such an interesting way to be because I've probably been both, and neither really feel good. You know, when you feel like you don't have any power to change any outcome of your life, and then when you feel like all the power or every outcome is basically from some other resource outside of you, you know?
Yeah. And that key thing in there is that outside of you, right?
Yes.
Like the answers outside of you. Yeah. I mean, anytime I notice I'm searching outside of me, like you can, there's an energy that I feel myself doing that. Like I get a little sweatier. I'm like, right. It's like,
I start to smell.
Yeah.
I start to yell.
I definitely get angry, or so the yelling is a part of it. They get like, I'll get like, just like tense and like a little grumpier, right? And it's like, it's knowing that my body, like usually that's the sign for, I'll go, oh, look at that. I'm like kind of a little sweatier. I'm yelling a little, I'm like a little angrier these days. Like I can notice that means I'm going outside of myself. But I think that's a really key thing of what you just said there. It's, it's not easy work to be self-reflective, right? And I understand and I empathize that to go outside of ourselves just sometimes feels easier. Like, yes, 100%. And it's usually not going to be the thing that brings you home to yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
And I also think that the more it's, I guess, normalized, maybe the less, I don't know about the less hard it will be, but oftentimes I feel like it becomes even more hard is because we're thinking about either how other people are perceiving it or the judgment they might have, because you are realizing a truth, but there's really no judgment at all, but it's your perceived judgment because you judge yourself. It's like it becomes so complicated. So I'm excited for like the just the normalization of this type of conversation and just like the coming home to yourself. Yes, of course, there's going to be balance. There's going to be moments, but where it's encouraged.
Yeah.
And it's more normalized so people don't feel the added discomfort and shame around really seeing parts of themselves.
That is so true and beautiful. And I think that's something you guys have really done with your community, right? You see that in your space. Like it's these like-minded people that are willing and interested to be self-reflective and to go in and
like-hearted.
Yeah.
That's my new vibe. Like-hearted.
Yeah.
Not like-minded. Like-hearted.
Completely.
Yeah,
Did we tell our copywriter that?
No, that's fucking trademarked. None of you bitches listening. We are like-hearted. Should probably delete that.
No, but every time I see like-minded, I'm like,
that's because it's not it. And I was like, we're like-hearted, bitch.
Yep, it is. It is. You're right. It is like-hearted. That is true. There is this thing though, and I kind of want to say this too, because like we're having this great intense conversation about, personal development and healing. It's like there is a lot of ease in that healing journey. It doesn't always have to be hard. It isn't always hard, right? And we can let it be easier than it is. We often are making it harder than it needs to be.
I don't know who. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
It's my thing. I interrupt.
That's okay. I do it too.
You don't interrupt.
And I'm sorry I did that. But I was just thinking, there was someone that said that to me one time. It was, I don't know what it was. I wish I could remember, but it was me coming into awareness about a pattern that I had, a wounding that I had, a healing that needed to be done. And if I could remember, I would explain it, but I can't. But the person basically was like, your awareness of it starts to dissolve whatever it is. Like your awareness of the issue has already begun work on the issue.
Yes.
And that was everything to me, because I'm like, wow, I don't need to be like, I am going to be doing this for 2 hours a day.
Right.
I was just like, oh, my general awareness of
so
this
powerful.
is all that I need.
Yeah.
In this moment.
Yes. Yes.
And sometimes you need more.
Right. Right.
But.
And sometimes you have to have the awareness multiple times and, be aware of it when it comes back up. But one of the foundation of the breathwork practice that I teach is my teachers saying, where awareness goes, energy flows. And it is. It's like, it's as hard as that is. It's as easy as that is. It's like it's the give and the take with that, right? No, having awareness of it isn't going to just instantly always pop the bubble and create the change. But yes, having the awareness of it is, you're already on the path of the change. So sometimes there isn't anything else you have to do, right? This is a terrible example, but I think you guys will laugh, so I'm going to share it. At the beginning stages of the pandemic, breathwork, which is the thing I'm pretty positive that breathwork could heal the world. That's how I feel.
I agree.
And it was not for me at the beginning of the pandemic. And I kind of kept checking in like, okay, body, there's a lot going on. Like, what are you seeing on social media and these things that are kind of coming at you and you're not wanting to lay down to breathe? Like, are you resisting something? Are you what's happening? But every time and time again, my body was just like, nope, too much. Nope, too much. Nope, too much. So I leaned in to my meditation practice, which is a Buddhist lineage that I teach. That's a deeply grounded, rooted practice. And I just like did longer. I could feel it. It was my whole body wanting longer sessions of that. And over time, I started to understand why. It was really because there was so much happening and my senses were on overload that my body needed to ground, not to feel everything, but to ground. So I didn't understand it in the moment, but all I knew was at the end of the days, I was holding space for clients and doing groups, and everything moved, online. And the end of the week would come, and my shoulders were killing me. Like, a massage couldn't even get it out. I just didn't know what I was supposed to do. And so I started doing this thing. We started using a Theragun on my back, where I would he would turn on The Office, and I would lay on the bed, and he would literally sit on my butt, and he would Theragun my back, and I would sob.
Wow.
Just sob. And that was it. And then I'd tell him when I was done, and he's like, okay. And then like, that would be it. And we'd get ready for bed. We wouldn't talk. We never talked during any of it. And it was looking back, it always kind of makes me laugh because I'm like, this is so funny. We're like watching The Office. I'm sobbing. Jay's Theragunning my back, right? My body that was the way in which,
release.
Yes. And so all I needed to do was have the awareness that my shoulders were killing me and I needed something different than what I was doing. And I created this like funny little ritual that ended up being the thing that without a doubt released everything I needed until I was ready to go back to other tools and lean on other things. Right? But I don't even remember what that was an example of, but.
And it just points to like the truth that we don't always have to explain everything that needs to be processed or comes through us. It's like, the body holds so much things that we don't remember, things that, we can't really put to words, but to be able to use a physical release that conjures an emotional release, I think is so, so powerful. And that's what I think breathwork does for me so much of the time, which is just this like very physical practice. And then it's touching on this emotional and also just like soul points that like I can't put to words, but the feeling of it, I'm like, got it.
Yeah.
Perfect. Great.
Yes.
Yeah. And I can't explain it to anyone, but I just wanted to say that because sometimes I feel like we need to over explain because we have to think of like our Instagram caption or what we're going to say to our therapist or, you know what I mean?
Yes. I was thinking about that the past week because I've been feeling I was actually feeling depressed. I was like, ooh, that depression. Depression's such a specific feeling for me. I think for a lot of people, it's very specific. You're like, oh, that is that. It's not sadness. That's depression. And I was feeling that. And I was like, I think I was hanging out with people or I had plans to hang out with people. I'm like, okay, how am I going to explain how I'm feeling to them? And I kept thinking about it. I'm like, dude, no, no. It's not words. It's just feeling, and it's just being with the feeling. And when I'm trying to put words to it, I'm just really doing myself a disservice because I might be pulling on threads that aren't even there. It's like I might even be like, it's like I go to my database. I'm like, what is kind of a problem?
What are my wounds?
Yeah, I'm like, what? Which one of you should I call on as like
trauma number 2? Come here.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, literally. You're up. We're gonna hit on this again. And you attach this. I attach that wound to the depression, and who knows what that is? Who knows what that is?
Well, there's something to be said for. Like words are beautiful and powerful and healing, and yes, all the things. I'm a writer. I believe in them. But words are also they come from often the mind.
Yes.
And if you're describing a feeling, if it comes from the body as a feeling, or there's an experience in the body, then you're still trying to find the words to explain it, then you're definitely thinking, right? You're definitely using your mind to try to describe something. And there are just some things that are beyond words, right? There are some things, some energies, some healing opportunities, some moments that are beyond words. And yeah, to give the words could be a disservice. I mean, sometimes I'll say that at the end of a breathwork session to people, especially when it's like their first time or they haven't done a lot of this work before. You know, be selective about who you share your experience with, because it's okay that you don't have words to describe what you just went through. And sometimes we want the words, we want someone to understand. You know, being misunderstood is a deep wound of mine. So I want people to really understand. So then I go into the over explanation, and then it kind of kills even the feeling. It doesn't necessarily kill the experience, but it can pop the bubble, if you will. And it's like, it's all right for the words to just be doing a disservice because it came from the mind, right?
Yes.
Totally.
I was with a friend the other night. We were practicing energy work and we were high. And I don't like to smoke, but I was high, and I don't like smoking because I'm
Ahead.
This is why I love you.
I'm
by
very
the way.
words.
This is
like
like
I'm
one
a
of
words,
the reasons.
I'm like a word person. And I'm very like, the way that I speak and talk is very much a part of me. And I was like, it was like couldn't find how to talk. So I was like, it was very much throwing me off, because I very much was feeling out of control, because that part of me that's a very good speaker, very well spoken, wasn't able to be present, and I was like losing it. It was fucking stressful. I was like, I am not hitting the right notes at all. Like I am, and I'm like, but I wish I could have just felt and let myself feel and let the feeling guide me. But it was like I was saying all the wrong things.
With weed, that does that to me too.
I hate weed, dude.
It just like
I
it
hate
doesn't. But some people are fucking prophetic.
I know.
On weed, so
I think it affects affects everyone totally different. I just
Sure.
don't. I don't like anything that's kind of getting me out of control.
Yes,
I
I'm
totally get that. I think that there is something to be said for being in like the healing space at all and connected. Like the deeper I go on my healing journey, the more those things numb out my intuition and my connection to myself and my connection to spirit. And I just like, that doesn't feel good anymore. I don't want to be disconnected from that. Like, this is cool.
Except for microdosing.
I know.
except for the fact that I'm microdosing. I have a hierarchy. But drinking was for sure that. You're like, yo, can't be doing this.
Well,
Cannot.
and
even
if we're talking about the microdosing, if we really think about that, I mean, a lot of those tools and they're doing studies now, you know, they're doing therapeutic studies to try to bring in some of these psychedelics into therapeutic sessions to help people through healing and pain and trauma. So there is the prophetic weed smokers are probably, you know, that's their experience on those.
And always like, are they prophetic or are you just high? You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I don't know. I always say the thing that like kills the joke. Everyone's like, ha ha, and then I'm like, da da, and everyone's like, ha ha. I literally kill every joke when high. It's very bad. I hate it.
Holy
Justin, I always like, if we've been high together, he's always the one that like I'll be making fun of him, and it's like I'll go too far. Like,
you like start activating his wounds.
Yeah, literally.
He's like, ow.
Yeah, because you know sometimes when you're high, you're very insecure.
Yeah,
Totally.
Yeah.
Or
I
just
get like
like
that.
no filter.
Yes. You just get I don't know. Anyways, any freaking ways.
Turns into a therapy session for Justin. He's like, actually, Krista,
You're a
we
bully.
need to talk about this.
Yeah, honestly. Like I thought we were just high having fun. Wait, I want to hear more just about the book.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited again, which is nice to feel excited again. Yeah, it's a journey coming home to myself, and it's hopefully the meditations and breathwork teachings to help others come home to themselves. It's without a doubt, it's a transmission of everything that's happened over the last decade, from, you know, the journey that brought me into breathwork, that opened these senses and tools, and to understanding how the breath can help you live a more fulfilled life. And that to me is like just the greatest gift that breathwork ever gave me, was to just help me come home to myself. I mean, I had lost a big portion of who I was to my emotions. My emotions had overtaken me, and I didn't even see it. And it sort of blows me away that, and then now over the years, how time and time again, that's what it does. It brings me home to myself. You know, I was nervous to come here today, and I knew that would happen. And usually one of the reasons nerves show up for me is some inner wounding stuff that's trying to, you know, usually it's a feeling of like, am I enough? Like, what do I have to say? Why, you know? So that's an old thing. And I know it always shows up when I'm up leveling too. So I intentionally, like whenever we booked this, looked at the day and was like, all right, back that up. Here's where breathwork's going to fit in before going, to make sure that I'd come home to myself. And it actually is as simple as that. You know, like today's session wasn't this, like, I didn't go to another world. I didn't, you know, leave this dimension. I just dropped back into my heart, got to tap into, what I have to say, my teachings, my work, and like what feels good to me and what's supported me. And then I'm like, great, there's love. And like, I can step forward. So the book to me it's a coming home to myself, and in my hopes to help others see that they can also consistently come home to themselves and use the breath to live a more fulfilled life.
So proud of you.
Thank you.
So proud of
I
you.
can't wait.
I love you.
Thanks, guys.
So
love you
much.
so much.
This was powerful.
Yeah, this was so good.
So good.
We love you.
Really is a vortex.
I know, isn't it? Isn't it
I'm like,
wild?
What just happened? Like, the notes look like a crazy person.
Honestly.
Look at the notes.
Whenever I do like house clearings, she's always talks about this room. She's like, blue lightning. I see blue lightning all over the room.
Totally fair.
Yeah.
Just sucks you right
I was
in.
just thinking about, speaking of vortex, just as we end, dude, you at our retreat. Dude, that was fucking
That was a vortex.
wild.
Yeah.
That was like
Group
by
breathwork
everyone.
is
Yeah.
We had done energy
unreal.
healing with Milana the night before.
Yep.
Womb healing, and then your breath work.
We
Dude,
hit them hard.
hit them hard.
Yeah,
Hit
we
me
did.
hard.
I know.
I was so tired.
It's like there's this reminder to me when you get together with the group portion of it, that we're for group healing work, that we're not alone, and that
Yeah.
you're going through, like, yes, that's what it feels like when you come to a retreat or you sign up for this thing, you know, where you get to spend some time together. It does usually feel that way. But even if it's just an hour-long breathwork workshop, I mean, the thing is to hold space for one another, like through our own pain and through, you know, the cracking open. There just is nothing like it.
Yeah.
There is
Yeah.
nothing
Yeah.
like it. And to consistently be cracking ourselves open, and to do that together and be like, oh, I see you're cracked open. And by the way, your cracked open is not broken. Your cracked open is so beautiful. Thank you for sharing your crack. Like, that's what those group healing experiences are.
Yes.
And that was amazing, that one.
Yes.
I know, so good.
And then
That
we
it-
didn't get
it's
to do
like
it again.
that experience couldn't have happened without you, obviously.
Yeah.
And it's like, I can imagine sometimes I go into things that we do, whether in the membership or in certain programs, where I know that there's so much of the experience that has nothing to do
Oh,
with
yeah.
with what I'm bringing to it today. It's literally like, it is that literal group healing that happens without you even
Yeah.
doing
It
anything.
is one of the ways that I look at that. I love it so much to set the container from this, and I'm speaking energetically here. When I set the container energetically from a masculine perspective, and I like really hold the tent poles, and I create the safe container, when I really set the tent poles from this masculine energy space, it allows the feminine to dance in the active, in your healing experience, which is sort of that when you get to kind of step back and be like, yeah, this is okay. So the container's been set, and now this is about you and your journey. And there's something so beautiful to witness that.
Yeah, completely agree.
We love you.
I love you both.
Thank you
I
for
love
coming.
you. We'll see you
Thanks
guys
for having me.
soon.
We'll see you guys soon. Bye.
Thank you so much, Jenna. It was a blast to sit down with you. You can learn more about Jenna and her work at jennareiss.com. Follow her on Instagram at Jenna M. Reiss.
We love you guys. Thank you for being a part of our lives, our community. The membership this season has been incredible. So if you're a member, we love you so, so much. We'll be opening up membership again soon in the next couple months, right after camp, which is super exciting. Make sure you're subscribed to the show either on Spotify or Apple Podcasts so you can get all of these incredible episodes straight to your phone.
All right, y'all, and thank you to our sponsors for this episode. As always, just bringing you brands that we really love and use ourselves. Thank you to Hum Nutrition, Olive and June, Third Love, and Athletic Greens. You can find all discount information in our show notes and on almost30.com. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you on the next one.
We'll see you soon. Bye.